Hello, everybody. So today I want to talk about direct-to-consumer healthcare and the disruption of traditional health. And particularly, I want to discuss how I cannot understand how these companies are trading at, 1 to 2 times forward revenue when they are clearly major disruptors of legacy health, what I call traditional health, trad health. And it's funny, but if you look at LifeMD and HIMSS, in my spreadsheet of 150 plus stocks, they both are respectively the first and the second cheapest. And they also achieve a rule of 40 for those two. So it's really stunning to me that they are so cheap considering the disruption that may come to that sector. And I'll get to that at the end of the video, talking about gig economy, gig workers, talking about the value that someone may get with traditional health insurance compared to these systems, and even talking about the superiority sometimes of just owning your own health funds and managing your own funds for your own health. And of course, this is not health advice, not health insurance advice, no financial advice, but let's get started. So LifeMD, what is it? It's an eDoctor, and you pay to see the eDoctor, and then when it comes to your prescription, they'll give you a coupon a la GoodRx, right? Just like a little bit like GoodRx, you get a coupon and you have to pay for your prescription at a store in the physical world, or you can get those coupon transferred to Mark Cuban website or to Amazon Pharmacy. You do something like that. One way I describe LifeMD is doctor visits for less than cable, because it's literally less than cable, way less than cable. So if you don't want a subscription, if you just want to see a doctor, it's $139, but you get 25% off your first visit. So you're at about $100 to see a doctor. And I checked. I went into the website and I was like, let's see, do I want to see someone? If I want to see someone, I can get something for Monday, and right now is Friday end of day. I can get an actual MD on Monday remotely, which is stunning. If you know anything about the traditional health system, that doesn't work like that, especially if you have to stay in network, which most insurance companies kind of have you do that. But it gets even better. Let's say you have a recurring condition, you need to see a doctor often. I don't know, you have more advanced diabetes, for example. Well, in that case, it's $39 a month, and they have you a 3-month subscription is $117, but it's $39 a month, and that gives you one doctor visit, one free appointment included every month, one free appointment. Think about that. And it also helps you, follow up your labs, get your labs done. You can get a commentary on your labs by the doctor. Very transparent, the price right away. That transparency is second to none. And you can get even better. You can get unlimited free visits for $99 a month. I believe that is an incredible value. And when I look at LifeMD, I can tell you from studying this company a little bit for a while, they actually have a lot of international customers because they love these prices. And you have places around the world. There are some places where it may take months to see a doctor, and sure enough, there's plenty of places like that in the United States where it takes months to see a doctor. So that's what LifeMD does. It's doctor visits digitally, no insurance. You pay out of pocket, and it's a low cost, and they deal with the labs, and they also have a coupon system for you to get your insurance. Very compelling. Now, as you know, I don't own LifeMD. If you follow this channel, you know I'm big on HIMSS. Why am I big on HIMSS? Because I think HIMSS has the other important piece of the puzzle here, which is ePharmacy. So HIMSS is both an eDoctor and an ePharmacy minus insurance, and I think the strength of HIMSS is that they have a business model innovation going on, in the sense that the approach to HIMSS to treatment is what I'm going to call on a concern by concern basis. Is you go to the HIMSS website and you have a rough idea of what issue you're trying to get fixed, right? So this is not a physical. You have a rough idea of what your issue is. And today, of course, with AI, quick conversation with Llama Free can give you a good idea of what you may be experiencing, what issue you may be having, what concern you may be having, and what drug you may actually need. Try it out. Just have a little conversation with Llama Free. I challenge it all the time, and it's really, really, really good. And Anyways, so people, assuming information is flat, people have a general idea of what they may need. And so HIMSS has this approach, which is a kind of a treatment by treatment basis, concern by concern basis. And what you do is you say, okay, well, I think I have an ED problem. Okay, I think I have an ED problem. Let me go on HIMSS, and HIMSS will get you in front of a doctor. And if the doctor determines that you're eligible for one of the prescriptions, you're going to get the prescriptions. You're going to get that monthly refill, and it's your prescription that pays for the doctor visit. And of course, if you don't get prescribed anything, you don't pay. It's like an estimate. It's like getting an estimate for a kitchen remodel or whatever, right? If the price is no good, you don't pay for your estimate. This is taking the customer centricity of Amazon and applying it to healthcare. Another important point, and I discuss this talk a lot with my brother for some reason. Anyways, another important point is like this avoids the ping pong. And I was discussing the ping pong idea with my doctor in house, and she was telling me that. So sometimes, of course, when you're in network, the clinic or the hospital, whatever you use, even the family doctor office, they have an incentive to have you see the nurse practitioner because they cost less than the MD, right? So they have you see a nurse practitioner, and a common thing is that the nurse practitioner will be like, okay, you clearly need to see a specialist here. I'm not qualified. You clearly need to see a specialist. So the nurse practitioner will refer you to a specialist. And then more often than not, you have an insurance that calls and that says, no. The nurse practitioner, they can't refer to specialists. Only a MD has to refer you to the specialist because the insurance kind of hopes that the nurse practitioner quote unquote doesn't know what they're doing. So they're like, okay, well, the MD is less likely to refer them to the more expensive specialist. So then you have to take another appointment to see the MD. And the MD most of the time is in agreement with the NP. Turns out, yeah, you really need to go see a specialist. And then the MD refers you to the specialist. And then the insurance is like, okay, all right, you go see a specialist. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 appointment type interactions. Think about that. 5 appointments to get in front. Well, in the case of ED, right, that would be a urologist, right? To get in front of a urologist, it takes you 5 appointments in a worst case scenario, while HIMSS, of course, their providers, they're used to deal with the treatment that you seek. It's a treatment by treatment basis, and the providers on HIMSS are treatment experts. And so, yeah, if ED drugs, if you're someone who's got a heart condition, yeah, it's typically going to be the urologist specialist that's gonna say, okay, well, you can actually get on, the generic for Cialis or whatever. It's not if it's straightforward, if it's easy, they can do it. But oftentimes you need to refer to a specialist. This avoid the ping pong that you can have in traditional healthcare, and that can just lengthen the process of seeing a doctor to get access to a drug being a 24, 48-hour thing versus it being like an 11-month thing, because you have to go through different specialists who just send you back to each other like a ping pong ball between 2 players. And I thought that was a very relevant example, and this avoids that. So again, business model innovation right there. Not only is it cheap, but it's also arguably, in my view, better. And point number 3 is Talkspace. Talkspace is a company. It's a little more expensive, and I kind of see why it's a little more expensive. They've spent a lot of time developing what the market sees as a moat, which is, unlike LifeMD or HIMSS, Talkspace does a lot of business with insurance companies, and so the market being the way it is, the market likes insurance companies. I personally think they slow you down, but the market like insurance companies. But Talkspace, just like BetterHelp, which is Teladoc's division, and by the way, BetterHelp, I would love to analyze BetterHelp, but unfortunately unfortunately, I got to buy Teladoc to get to BetterHelp. So I'm like, no, if it was a standalone stock, rest assured BetterHelp would be in there. But it's not a standalone stock. So there's two players. There's Talkspace and BetterHelp in the therapy super niche. I'm going to call it a super niche, although it's not really that niche. It's a big deal in the US. A lot of people go to therapy. And so that could be things like, I don't know, couples counseling, like you're fighting with your spouse and you need to figure things out, whatever. How much is that going to cost? Well, that's the beauty of a service like Talkspace, all of these online services, is that it literally takes 10 seconds to figure out how much it costs. I can tell you exactly how much it costs, right? You have to have a subscription. And this is understandable because a therapist, you typically have multiple sessions with a therapist, so you need a subscription. And that subscription will include the visit with the therapist. And you can see it's $69 for messaging, $99 a week for actually seeing a one-to-one discussion. And then it's $65 extra. So all in all, if you're a big user, we're going to call it something like $75 to see each visit with a therapist. It is so transparent. I dare you to try to call your insurance company and try to figure out how much it would cost. And, just the time on the phone, I mean, you can get to that info in 30 seconds. You can get to have a rough idea of the pricing of any of these DTC Health services. You can get a rough idea of the service in just a few clicks, just a few seconds. The transparency is appreciated, and I think that is what is loved. And what I know about Gen Z is that they prefer chatting. They don't like the phone. They prefer texting, and the last thing they want to do is be on the phone with someone for 30 minutes to try to figure out that code within their insurance company. That code is eligible for what reimbursement, etc., etc., etc. Anyways, I want to talk about another aspect, and we're moving away from the stock and looking at the opportunity now. On this channel, I like to ask the question, is a product, a new industry, is it one order of magnitude better? Is it 10 times better? Is it 2 orders of magnitude better? Is it 100 times better? If it's 1 order or 2 orders of magnitude better, what you're going to see typically is people are going to flock to the product. That's why Netflix, for example, is so successful, because Netflix has literally 10x more shows than cable and is 10 times cheaper than cable. So it's 100 times better than cable. And then we can argue the quality of the shows, and you can have that argument about the quality. And sure enough, the legacy player always argues about the quality. But at the end of the day, the objective metrics, number of shows for dollar spent, you have 100 times delta, in the sense that Netflix is 100 times cheaper than the alternative, which is cable TV, right? And try to do that calculation for Spotify against the records store from the 1990s. You get to 5 or 6 orders of magnitude objectively. So when something is a few orders of magnitude, and even just 1 order of magnitude better, people switch. That's the underlying reason for product adoption. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. So if you have a job in the US, like I do, like half of my viewers are from the US, and so I'm assuming so many of us have jobs. When you have a job in the US, well, sometimes you're lucky you have a choice. In my case, I don't really have a choice. There's a few choices, but they're all just as expensive. So I pay $650. And of course, the employer covers a large majority of that. That's okay. I pay $650. Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's like one of the big ones in the US, right? And what do you get for that? Well, you get 1 free physical a year. But the pricing is totally not transparent. If you say it's a physical, they're not going to charge you up front. But if you go for an office visit, they'll charge you $175. And then the doctor inputs something in the computer. And depending on what they input on the computer, you may get a refund in the mail, or you may get a letter in the mail telling you to pay more. It's totally not transparent. And let me give you another example, right? I once needed one medication for pain. I had a pain in my left ear. It was painful anyways. So I wanted to get it addressed, right? So literally the only time I used it in 10 years was when I had that ear pain. I remember distinctly, and it was because of teeth. So I was referred to the ENT by my dentist. So the dentist kind of like sent me to the ENT. I remember going to the ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor, by the way. That's what it means. And I remember paying $30 with my copay for the ENT. And then the ENT prescribed me some eardrops. And the eardrops fixed my issue. Again, prescriptions drugs are the number one way that human issues get treated. Like perhaps 70-80% of the things that can go wrong with a human body, you can treat them with a prescription. I remember I did not even use my prescriptions card. That's to tell you how much of a joke. I remember using GoodRx back in the day, and it was a printed card. It was a printed card for that one drug that the doctor had, and like, oh, use GoodRx, don't use your prescriptions card. So the total benefit is really one doctor visit a year, where you see a NP, by the way, most of the time, because you have to fight to get the MDs at these systems. Point number one. And then you get a copay of $30, and you may be wondering, oh, but it was cheap, $30 to see the ENT doctor. I looked up, I was like, I'm researching like an independent ENT doctor. How much does it cost without insurance? Well, I found some as cheap as $135, but it seems like the average is about $200. About $200 to see a specialist. What a steal! What a steal! What an absolute steal! I mean, it is just a steal. I cannot even tell you. Compared to $650 a month? I mean, that is an absolute steal. Where is the money going? I really, really, really ask you. And of course, on this channel, when I publish my portfolio, I've discussed a little bit TQQQ, and of course, TQQQ is not triple the QQQ, but because it's a daily rebalance, but it's about 2.1x the QQQ, and it's not supposed to work, but guess what? It works. Go read the Reddit, go read people that are deep into that stuff, go read the prospectus. TQQQ works, even though it's supposed to be a daily instrument. When you hold it over a decade plus, turns out your return is entirely magnified. And so in a Roth IRA, I have a little bit of TQQQ, but I prefer individual stocks. That's the whole point of a channel. That's my passion. But anyway, ever wonder what 41%, so over the last, let's call it 15 years, TQQQ returned 41%. Do you wonder what $650 a month for 10 years at 41%, how much money that is? That's $1,089,000. And I see people say, oh, it's a daily ETF. You should absolutely not own a daily ETF for the longest time, which in general, I agree. But on something as stable as the QQQ, again, go to the Reddit, go read the prospectus, make your own opinion. But I agree in general, yeah, a daily ETF, you're not supposed to hold it over a long period. It just happens to work. Anyways, no financial advice. But let's take the QQQ. Let's take just the index. Just buy the index. No thought whatsoever. You just buy the index. How much money is that for 10 years, right? $219,000. Okay, so let's assume I go the conservative route, just buy an index. $219,650 for 10 years. That's $219,000. Where is the money? $650 a month for 10 years. Where is the money? One free physical, which we just found out was $100 on LifeMD, plus a $30 copay for a doctor visit that would have cost $200. So I'm at $300, plus whatever the cost of a drug was less than $50. So I'm at $450. Where is the money? Literally, where is the money? I mean, and people are catching on to that. I guarantee you, people, no financial advice, people are catching on to that. I don't think I'm the only one catching on to that. And I know that because, look at this. I remember back in the day, people would not get into gig work. They would be scared. They would be like, oh, you don't have insurance. Do you remember the Obamacare days, right? I came to the US in 2009. That was the prime days of that. Pre-DTC Health, pre-Web 2.0. That was a chief concern. You had people just getting jobs just for health insurance. As that changed compared to the Obamacare days. And I believe that has greatly changed because look at the numbers. And I put you a source here, Velocity Global. I thought the one was quite interesting about the gig economy. 70% of independent contractors say they are working as contractors by choice. 46% of Gen Z workers in the US participate in the gig economy. 37% of millennials. right? Gen Z pivots to gig jobs instead of full-time job because Gen Z wants to live on Airbnb. They want to travel. They want to go to Bali, to Indonesia. They want to do life hacking. They want to do the FIRE movement, right? Financial independence, retire early. 65% of Americans under 35 either freelance or plan to freelance. That's twice the rate of people over 35. So if young people don't contribute to these super expensive insurance plans and they just prefer to go to these systems, like think about the level of disruption that this is bringing, and what if this goes up? What if you have more and more people who just decide, well, I'm just going to pay for my own health? And keep in mind, I know there's, especially for the Europeans out there, I know there's a lot of myth in Europe about the US saying, oh, in the US, if you don't have insurance, you're going to be left in the street, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. There is Medicaid, right? You have Medicaid in the US that kicks in if you make under a certain amount. And yeah, it's a little challenging to find a doctor with Medicaid, but that exists. Most big cities have sponsored clinics with very low prices for people who can't afford it. I mean, it's not always as they make it to be. And I still follow French news. I still follow what's going on over there, and I see it. Sometimes you have people. Well, you go to the emergency room. You wait 12 hours to see a doctor in the emergency room. They didn't do a triage right, and so you end up passing in the emergency room waiting for help. There's a highway near me. I drive by the highway. The hospitals compete. One hospital says 5 minutes wait time ER. The other hospital says 10 minutes. And they have like an electronically updated board. When you pay up, sometimes you get to see somebody right away. Anyways, I don't know where the money is going. Honestly, I really don't know. And I think people are going to catch on to that. To me, this is so similar to paying $180 for cable. And, you just have a bulky old DVR that only people from the 90s still know how to use. And, then you have Netflix who comes and charges 17 or 15 or whatever Netflix charges these days. I think if you want ads, it's even less than that. And so that's my point number one. Like, where is it going? Are Gen Z catching on to that? Are Gen Z adopting HIMSS en masse? Are they adopting Amazon Health en masse, telehealth, not Teladoc, but LifeMD en masse? Are they doing that Talkspace en masse? When I read these websites, it's like there's a lot of adoption going on. And this is another point that I want to make about insurance in general. And, you may understand why I don't want to own the S&P 500. Because when I see some of the stock in the S&P 500, like United Healthcare, I get a little worried, right? Let me ask this question. I'll conclude with this. Is fear still a good tactic to sell insurance, health insurance, in the era of free information? Because fear sells. Fear is always a way to sell a product. And historically, insurance has been sold via fear. Oh, don't quit your job because you're not going to have insurance anymore. Again, no advice, right? It's just I'm just theorizing here. Let's talk about one of the most expensive drugs that I know of, and I know this from AbbVie. I used to be an AbbVie shareholder, so I know this drug is very expensive. So Humira is one of the most expensive that I'm gonna put into the category of widely prescribed drug. It's a common prescription, and that's like the most expensive one. Doing the research for this video, I was like, well, what do I do about Humira? It's $5,000 a month, right? Without insurance. Well, I was surprised to find that you can get a biosimilar available, and you can buy that biosimilar for $550 a month with GoodRx. So the biosimilar is $2,000 a month, but with GoodRx, again, information is flat. If a deal exists out there, it will be found. That's one of the main distinctions between modern day versus the 90s, the 2000s. Information is flat today. That means that there's Humira, one of the most expensive drugs. Literally, the state of California sued AbbVie because AbbVie was bankrupting the state. You literally can get a biosimilar for $550 a month. $550 a month. Well, it's less than most insurance you get for your employer, minus $650. How much is yours? This is less. $550 a month is less, and that's literally the most expensive widely prescribed drug I can think of. Another expensive one that I can think of that a lot of people are getting, right, for diabetes when your insurance pays, right? You got to have pre-diabetes or diabetes. It's Ozempic or the Zepbounds of the world. That's what, 1,800, 1,700, 1,500 a month. Well, that's the GLP-1 story, right? That's $199 a month if you get a compounded version of it. And then even if you don't, there's other things that you can do, like for example, metformin. HIMS, look at the HIMS strategy for weight loss. There's other things that people can get for weight loss that are much cheaper. So there again, you have an alternative. And again, I'll point that out. This is where I see the future headed. And do not look up personal peptide synthesizers or personal bioreactors. Don't go on Alibaba. Don't look it up. This is something that Ray Kurzweil talks about in his latest book, The Singularity is Nearer. He talks about that. And in my deep dive on the GLP-1s, I was able to find out about it and how people... I mean, just don't look it up. But it's like, I don't know what to say. It's just like, back in the 2000s, I remember at my high school, you had people having movies, American movies. They were just knocking off the CDs of American movies a month before they were released in France. Like what is going on here? I mean, what if, and this is Ray Kurzweil's prediction, not mine, but what if you live in a world when patients can just print their own prescriptions? Which is, per my research, is what seems to be happening for some of the GLP-1s. So what is going on if you're going to be into the world where your patients can just print their own prescriptions? The patterns of digitalization, those patterns that we've seen with, say, music, with movies, with some 3D printed items that I'm not going to describe, but people just downloading plans of some 3D printed items, right? What if we get into a world where you can just have a peptide synthesizer at home, and of course it's the main ingredient in a GLP-1, a personal peptide. Anyways, so that's another aspect to keep in mind of the disruption that may come for health insurance. And lastly, and this is the last note I'll make, is the ownership of your medical your medical phones, right? And this is important. So ownership of your medical phones. Well, let's talk about the cost of certain treatments, for example, right? So how much does a prostate cancer cost? Well, per my research, let's call it between 40 and 60 for a successful treatment of prostate cancer. Very common cancer. Unfortunately, in cases where the treatment is unsuccessful, it's a little more, but it's a little shy of 100,000. But hopefully, the treatment is successful. Then I was looking at a more expensive cancer type, like lung cancer. How much lung cancer treatment roughly costs? Well, between 68 and 85,000. Continuing care, like the drugs, etc., that could be 12 to 14,000, and the surgery itself, you gotta remove a tumor, let's call it 30,000. And of course, lung cancer or prostate cancer. Well, prostate cancer a little younger, but this lung cancer, at least, it's something that a lot of people deal in their 60s. So in your 60s, you presumably have 40 years of paying into health insurance. So I'm looking at what, like 150? And should I show you this again? I mean, 219 in 10 years or 1 million in 10 years. You don't want to put 40 years in there. Again, where is the money going? Like where is the money going? And I'll conclude with this, and I hope this is impactful. So this is a story again, a story with my brother. What if you want to use your health insurance fund? Let's say you're in your early 50s. You've been paying for health insurance, say, for the past, I don't know, 25, 26 years. And let's say you want to use your funds for like a child or a spouse. And this is a true story. Happened. My brother told me this story about one of his friends. So one of his friend's child in France needed access to a treatment that was not approved in the European Union, but that treatment was approved in the United States. The treatment was about $180,000. That was the price of the treatment. Because he didn't own the health funds, in a way. The health fund is held by the health system of France. Because he didn't own the health funds, it's not like he could fly to the US and spend $180,000 in the US to get his child treated. And unfortunately, the child passed away. And the GoFundMe didn't go fast enough, right? How many cases of that do we have where one treatment is allowed in one region of the world, say the US, and not in Europe? And I remember looking this up. There are some treatments that are allowed in Europe that are not allowed in the US because the health agencies do not work at the same speed. Owning your medical funds allow you to use them for emergencies, to use them for these type of situations where one drug may be available in one jurisdiction, but not in another. And this is, I think, again, with the power of free information and flat information, I think a lot of young people are catching up to that. This is why you can see, for example, the success of the HSA and the health savings account, the triple tax benefit, right? If you go read about the FIRE movements, the FIRE movement is all about the HSA. They love the HSA. So ownership of your medical money is also very important in certain cases, because at the end of the day, I could also make the case of immunotherapy in cancer. Maybe you want to have access to immunotherapy. Too bad, immunotherapy is going to be prescribed to you only after the less expensive, more usual chemo treatments have been given. So I could make that case multiple times. I also recommend you look at Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor has a fascinating story about getting treated for a knee injury and the difference in what the medical system offers you when you're a billionaire versus what you are offered when you go for insurance. So there is a freedom aspect to owning your medical funds too. So, again, this is not medical, not health insurance advice, no advice of the sort. I'm just thinking out loud here and saying that in a world where information is flat, information is free, a lot of people are going to see the value of these offerings. A lot of people, and I have a full position in HIMSS. I'm looking to increase my exposure in Talkspace, and even LifeMD sometimes might be interesting looking at. So, anyways, this was not financial advice, not investment advice, just entertainment only. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.